Hello everyone, welcome to the Jewish Week Online. I'm your host, Aaron Herman. We're here at the Israel Dealmakers Summit in New York City. We're going to learn about some innovative startups. Let's take a closer look. When people are looking for a job, it sometimes can be complicated, but also on the other end, employers are looking for the best in the industry. And your company uses innovative algorithms to try to make that connection. So talk a little bit about your company.
So what we've created here is a job marketplace that helps connect between talent and employers directly on an app. So what we do is we let talent or candidates create a profile on Switch. They can upload their LinkedIn profile, and we have an algorithm that knows how to categorize them based on their job function, the years of experience, the skills that they have, and offer them open positions that we have on Switch. And so it's a marketplace. We let employers post jobs, and again, based on the skills required for the job, based on the qualifications, we offer them talent that we have on the app. And then what we do is we facilitate that connection. So a match is created when a talent likes the job posting and the employer likes the talent. We let talent create anonymous profiles, so it's anonymous until they match. And the reason is a lot of the people on the app are what we call passive job seekers. So they don't want anybody to find out. They're quietly looking for their next opportunity. But once they've established that connection, or once they said, I'm really interested in talking to this company, at that point, they're basically agreeing for us to show their profile, and so we connect them.
And I think that's really important, actually, in this job market where people are, they might be looking for the next big thing, but like once you reveal who you are, people talk. It's just one of those things. So having that anonymous kind of feeling is critical.
So one of the other things that we're doing is we block companies from ever finding past or current employees, so you'll never meet your boss, and vice versa. So if you're working for a current company, you're not going to get jobs by that company. So we really guard your privacy and make sure people who work with you are not going to be able to find your profile even though they have positions posted on Switch.
So tell us a little bit about the features behind the app for the employer. So when they get this anonymous application, what's the process?
So what they do is they post a job. They have two ways of connecting with talent. We have a desktop that they could use, or they could use it on the app. And so what they do is they get 21 candidates a day for every job posting that they have on Switch. And what they do is they look at their, what we call 5-second resume. So they look at the people, the profiles, and they can swipe either like or pass. Either they're interested in talking to that candidate, or they pass on that candidate. And then if they like a candidate and they like the candidate likes a job posting, that connect. What happens is once they say that they like a candidate, a push notification gets triggered so that the candidate is aware that somebody, from, let's say, the Jewish Week is interested in their profile. And so we kind of call them back to the app. And then once a connection has been made, there is an email that gets triggered that introduces the two sides. So there is this very kind of direct connection between the talent and the employer. So a talent who's seeking for a job is somebody that they can contact. They know who that person is who's hiring for the job that they're.
And what's the cost to the employer?
So right now we don't monetize it, so we're in open beta, so it is free for both the employers and the talent.
An Israeli startup is built in innovation, and bringing video to the forefront is something that companies are looking to do. And your company has transformed the way that you can create innovative engagement for companies. Talk a little bit about how you got started.
Sure. So the first thing is that you're solving a problem. That should be the first and foremost thing you do in terms of when you're building a startup. And the problem that we solve specifically is companies are using video advertising in massive amounts, and the way they track performance is video views, completed views. But when you ask them to measure the success of their business, they have strong KPIs in terms of leads, sales, recruiting, real calls, what we call engagement metrics. But they're using views and completed views as their metric of success. And so we saw a huge opportunity as being able to put those KPIs and drive the meaningful actions within the framework of the player itself. So I think it's solving a pain point that affects a large market, because that's the second thing to consider, right? You can solve a great problem for 3 people that doesn't build a great company. So I think that's point number 2. two. And I think the third point is that understanding, which market you're going after, and that market's big enough for you, and it solves a big enough problem, and people are willing to pay you for that problem as well. So I think those are all considerations. But also, with all that, you need to have, the ability to listen to the market and pivot accordingly and change your offering, because more often than not, your initial, idea or concept go to market is going to change based upon the feedback, or the theory that you have when you go to market.
Let's talk about like the player a little bit, because I think people, when they think of players, they don't really understand how you can use it to your advantage in attracting customers. So tell a little bit more about the player.
So I think the player goes hand in hand with the analytics, right, of understanding what are people actually doing while they're watching your video, and then how do we then make the right calls to action. So for example, if we're driving a lead, right, what's the best time for that form to appear? Is it to wait to the end of the video? What happens if 80% of my people are dropping off before the end? So being able to understand what actions we want our viewers to take, and allowing the player to easily put those calls to actions or engagements at the right time. And the only way you do that is by having an integrated analytics tool, which is called actionable analytics platform. And that gets even more complicated when you talk cross-distribution, my Facebook viewers versus my mobile users versus my traditional ad users versus video display. So you really need to be able to have the player have multiple iterations depending upon the audience, the location, and what, and tying back to the KPIs as to what action do I ultimately want my user to take at what time, and allow the player to add those engagement metrics to the right audience in the right place at the right time.
And especially now where there's so many opportunities to engage customers, like you're like at the right time. It's like people are heavy in mobile, they're on the web, there's different social media that's popping up. Having the right tool to actually track, so that you might create the best video in the world, but if you're not understanding what's happening, it's like it's all for naught.
Yeah, listen, I think it's getting even more complicated, right? I think, the analogy I like to talk about is when in the early days of video, the YouTube days, there were so many places to distribute your video, right? It was Meta Cafe and Dailymotion and YouTube and a gazillion sites. And we kind of moved back to everything's on YouTube, and now we're getting back away from that, where there's Facebook video and Instagram and Pinterest and Twitter, and they're all creating their own native video players, right? And then you multiply that by my Android versus iPhone versus iPad, right? It's actually getting more complicated because there's so many more distribution points. But I think, people are absolutely spending more time on their devices. They're consuming much more video content, so there's a huge opportunity. But it's also, from a marketer's perspective, getting more complex, right? In terms of when the right time, what the right audience is, how to best use that. So it's a combination of not just distribution network challenges, but also technology and device challenges, right, that make that a hard problem for them to solve.
Sure. But actually, even in the media buying space, people are like, okay, like where do I buy? Like, because you have so many different opportunities, but if you have like a singularity that can be cross-referenced in so many platforms, you actually can see that ROI.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think media buy, I think it's a challenge for them, because a lot of companies, especially large advertisers and agencies, are still back to video views and completed views, right? But that doesn't actually correlate back to what we said, which is really helping you what you want to do and accomplish your business goals. So I think their jobs are getting harder in terms of what's the right place, what's the right distribution, and that's why I talk about analytics. I come back to that is it's really important to be able to, there's so many analytics platforms, but what a lot of them are missing is the actionable aspect of that, which is therefore what, right? And how do I, help make my job easier, right? And they're wearing so many different hats, which is how do I help you say, here's the right place, here's the right time to be using your video content in the most effective way, right? That challenge is getting harder, not easier.
So how does this work with like a company that's now interested in selling X product? Like, what's the process for them?
Sure. So right now we go after large agencies and advertisers. Right. We have two different models. We have a self-managed and a fully managed. For the fully managed, we leverage some of our own expertise to actually help them with the distribution, whether that's Facebook, pre-roll, mobile, etc. And a lot of our customers, especially larger agencies, are actually getting access to our self-serve platform, managing it and distributing it, and then getting access to our analytics suite as well. So it depends on the fully managed or self-managed, but ultimately it's using the same technology base to help you solve that problem, and then the full circle with the analytics of helping you optimize the creative based upon the data that you're getting, and being able to do that in real time to optimize those creatives according to the data that you're getting.
And where can people learn learn more about your company?
At viewbix.com, viewbix.com. And if they have any questions, reach us. We're available all the time in our support team.
Video messaging is something that is taking off. It's like if you're not on video, it's like people don't respond anymore.
That's right. So video messaging is the best way to communicate with people because then they get the entire message. About 60 to 90% of a message is nonverbal, so body language, emotion, all of those things get lost when you just do text messaging or photo messaging. So video messaging is the next best thing to being there.
Let's talk a little bit about how the company has evolved a little bit in terms of how it's positioning itself now, especially with now the Apple Watch.
Sure. So we've been out about 2 years now. We have 20 million registered users. We've sent over 1 billion video messages to date. And we're now looking at this whole idea of live video messaging or visual communications, right? On a smartwatch, you've got a very small screen. The keyboard is almost non-existent, and it's very painful to try to text on a smartwatch. So today, we're already thinking about when smartwatches go mainstream, how are you going to communicate on those watches, right? You're going to get a message. What do you do? How do you act on them? So we're going to be ready when the Apple Watch comes out to give people the sort of the first taste at instantly responding to messages. We've already demonstrated live streaming from an Android smartwatch with a front-facing camera. And it's just a matter of time until the hardware manufacturers catch up and give us the opportunity to make that a mainstream behavior.
And what sets you apart from other video messaging applications?
Sure. So today, if you try to send a video message using things like WhatsApp or Snapchat, you create the message on your phone, you then send it, and you have to wait for people to respond. That's because you're doing what's called store and forward, right? We stream video messages. So when I hit the record button, the person I'm sending it to or the group of people that I'm sending it to can start watching that message instantly live. And then they can respond as soon as your message is over. So if I'm sending a 2-minute message, they're responding at 2 minutes and 1 second. And that all of a sudden makes this much more conversational.
And one of the great things is that you're seeing that raw emotion, and I think that's what you kind of even in emails, like you see like what do they mean by that email, but you're actually seeing what you're saying.
Absolutely. There's no misinterpretation when you see the person and you hear the person. Everything that they're saying, you can read and react to that. Think about it this way. If I send you an emoticon, isn't it much better for me just to show you my face and how I'm reacting to what you've just told me?
That's true. And so are you able to save any of the messages? Like, how does it work?
So all of the Glide messages are stored in the clouds. You can watch them later as many times as you want, just by swiping left or right or up or down, depending on whether you're on our iOS or our Android app. And you can watch them as many times as you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. And they're there, stored in our cloud in perpetuity.
And one of the things that I realize is that when you're looking at the video messaging space, it's growing. It's not just even for your mobile devices now. It's like things are changing as social media expands. How are you looking, I guess, forward in the next 2 to 5 years?
Sure. So live video is really the next big thing. You're seeing it with startups, also Israeli startups like Meerkat, where you can broadcast anything to anybody around the globe live. The moment you're seeing it, you're sharing it. What differentiates us from something like that is we're a private messenger, because there's just certain things that you want to share with people, but you want them to be trusted friends, family, close advisors, people you work with. You don't want everybody in the world to be able to see that. And we think there's a lot of space in the market for all kinds of video applications, and we just see that space growing tremendously over the next couple of years.
And where can people learn more about your company?
People can learn more about Glide at www.glide.me. We're also free in the iOS store and on Android. Come join the fun.
As you can see, innovative startups coming out of Israel is transforming the way we learn, connect, and play. This is Aaron Herman, and thank you for watching.